Most people quit right before it works. Not because the plan failed, not because they lacked discipline, but because nothing looked like it was happening. You save, you invest, you automate, and the balance barely moves. The chart looks flat, the excitement fades. It feels like you're doing everything right and getting nothing back. That's the moment most people turn around. They switch strategies, they pull money out, they reset, right before momentum begins. This is the disappointment gap, the space between effort and evidence. Below the surface, something is happening. Roots are forming. Structure is being laid down. Systems are quietly locking into place. Habits are stabilizing. Risk is being reduced. Time is being invited in. But because none of this is visible, the silence starts to talk back. It convinces people they're doing something wrong, that they misunderstood the rules, that everyone else figured it out faster. It whispers that maybe you waited too long, that maybe this only works for other people. And many people quit, not because the plan failed, but because it hadn't spoken yet. Then, almost without warning, something breaks through. Not explosively, not dramatically, not in a way that impresses anyone else, just enough to prove that the quiet was never empty. In the early years, you are doing all the heavy lifting. Your balance grows because you add to it, because you push money uphill, because you apply force again and again. Not because the money is working, but because you are. This is the effort trap, the phase where discipline matters most and rewards feel smallest, where consistency feels boring, where patience feels unproductive. It's also the most dangerous moment. This is where the bridge feels unfinished, where the numbers feel dishonest, where patience feels like a gamble instead of a strategy. And this is where many people turn around. They stop contributing. They pull money out. They reset and start over somewhere else, right before momentum begins. Because wealth doesn't grow in a straight line. It grows through momentum. At first, nothing moves. Then something shifts. Then movement sustains itself. Eventually, you reach a point where your returns begin doing more work than your deposits ever could. Not a moment where you feel rich, but a moment where effort and outcome finally stop matching one to one. Think of a snowball. At first, every rotation adds almost nothing. A thin dusting, barely enough to notice. It's exhausting. You're pushing uphill, cold, slow, questioning whether this is worth it at all. But as it grows, that same rotation picks up more snow. And eventually, one roll adds more than the first 50 combined. That's compounding. Not magic, not genius, not luck. Just time meeting structure without interruption. The biggest mistake people make isn't choosing the wrong fund. It's resetting the clock. When you switch strategies because you're bored, or frustrated, or tired of waiting, you melt the snowball and drag it back to the top. Boredom is the enemy of compounding, because momentum doesn't announce itself loudly. It builds quietly. It rewards restraint, and it punishes interruption. If this stage feels slow, if progress feels invisible, if it feels like nothing is happening, it doesn't mean the system is broken. It means it's working before it's visible. And that is where most people give up, right before the work starts working back. There are 3 phases almost everyone passes through. Not because they're talented, not because they timed it perfectly, but because time applies the same rules to everyone. The first phase is foundation. This is where effort is front-loaded, where progress feels manual, where every gain has fingerprints on it. You are placing stone by stone, slowly, deliberately, often without knowing how tall the structure will become. This phase is not about speed. It is about capacity. How much pressure your system can eventually carry without cracking, without forcing shortcuts, without demanding proof too early. Most people rush this part. They want results before resilience, motion before stability, acceleration before alignment. But without a foundation, growth doesn't compound. It sways, it collapses, it has to be rebuilt. The second phase is the inflection, and this is the hardest phase to recognize while you are inside it. Nothing looks different yet. Your behavior hasn't changed. Your habits haven't changed. Your strategy hasn't changed. But something internal has shifted. Returns begin to matter, quietly, incrementally, almost politely. They don't replace your effort. They don't remove discipline. They don't announce themselves. They simply start helping. This is where impatience shows up, because the system is working, but not loudly enough to feel rewarding. This phase requires waiting without interference, letting the engine warm without revving it unnecessarily, letting momentum form without demanding proof every step of the way. And then comes the third phase, stewardship. This is where action matters less than restraint, where your job is no longer to push, but to avoid getting in the way. The system now has weight. Momentum exists. Movement continues even when you pause. Not because you're smarter, not because you cracked a secret code, but because time was finally allowed to remain uninterrupted. This is the phase most people misunderstand. They think it's about doing more. It isn't. It's about not undoing what you've already built, protecting the structure, maintaining the rhythm, letting boredom pass without reacting to it. Because financial security is not about brilliance. It is not about perfect timing. It is not about dramatic decisions. It is about building something quiet that works even when you stop paying attention. Something repeatable, something boring, something durable enough to survive mood, fear, and distraction. When the structure is right and time is allowed to work, progress stops feeling fragile. It stops feeling reversible. It stops feeling dependent on constant effort. It begins to feel inevitable. Not fast, not flashy, not exciting, just steady. If your progress feels slow right now, that does not mean you are behind. It means you are early. If the work feels quiet, if the rewards feel delayed, if nothing seems to be happening yet, that is not a warning sign. It is the entry price. The math isn't broken. It is patient. Stay consistent. Protect the system. Resist the urge to interfere. And let time do what it does best. We'll keep building this, slowly and steadily.